Advanced 7th, Chapter 15, Lesson 4, Descriptive Statistics. Part 1, Measures of Center and Variability. Center talks about the middle, and variability talks about the spread or the diversity of the scores. Data with one variable, such as test scores, are called univariate data. These data can be described by a measure of center. The next three things talk about center: mean, median, mode, and in fact the range, the next four things. If I were you, in my own words, I would write down a definition for each: mean, median, mode, range. Pause the video and do that on your own. Then you've done that, practicing what you remember from last year, press play and check with mine. Okay, so the mean is the average. You add up all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. The median is the middle number when they're in order from least to greatest. The mode is the number that appears most often. I try to remember that: mode, M-O, and most, M-O, most often. The range is the highest number minus the lowest number. Letter A, putting all of that into practice. The ages and years of people seated in one row of a movie theater are 16, 15, 24, 33, 30, 56, 19, and 19. Find the mean, median, mode, and range of the data set, or find the middle values, the measure of the center. Again, I would take the time to pause the video and try these all on your own. Again, you need to show work, so don't just pick up your calculator and type, 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 type. You gotta show work. Right, hopefully your answers match mine. And again, if you didn't show work, this answer would be completely wrong. So the average is the mean. You should have added all of those numbers and divided by 8, because there are 8 numbers. The median, you should have put those numbers in order from least to greatest, crossed off one high, one low, one high, one low, until you're left with only one. If you're left with 2, you take the mean or the average of those 2. So you should have gotten 24 and 19. So I added those up and divided by 2. Again, found the mean. So the median is 21.5. The mode is the number that appears most often, which in this case is 19, because it's the only number that appeared more than once. And the range is the highest number minus the lowest number. The highest here is 56, and the lowest is 15. So if you subtract those, you should get 41. Please do the same for letter B on your own. All right, on the back, part 2 of the 5-number summary. Again, this is review from last year. Quantitative data are data that can be measured. Quantitative means numbers, things that can be measured. A set of quantitative data can be divided into 4 equal parts called quartiles. So if I were you, I would make a note somewhere here that a quarter is 1/4, 25%, etc. The 5-number summary, which includes the following 5 things. Again, highlight, underline something here. On a test, state test, my test, final, you'll be asked for the 5-number summary, and that's all you'll be given. You need to know that that includes the minimum, Q1, the median, Q3, and the maximum. Notice that those all have Q1, 2, 3, and 4. Typically, we only see Q1 and Q3, but you do need to know that Q2 is the median and the max is Q4, and that the minimum is not labeled with any Qs because it's not a quarter of any of the data. The 5-number summary can be described visually with a box and whisker plot, as shown below. We call them box and whisker plots in middle school. It's real cute. In high school, you'll call them simply box plots. And again, you'll need to have that memorized, that a box plot shows the 5-number summary. All right, so in review, the box plot, or the box and whisker plot, has a straight line at the median, a straight line at Q1, a straight line at Q3. The minimum and the maximum are denoted by a big dot, and then they're connected with those lines. If you see an outlier that we talked about last year, you'll see an asterisk. Okay. Also notice that on your notes, this is very important, and you'll be asked similar questions like this. 25% of the data is found between the minimum and Q1. Another quarter of data is between Q1 and the median. The third quarter is between the median and Q3, and then the final 25% of the data is between Q3 and the maximum. So I could ask for, hey, where is 50% of the data? Where is less than 75, etc., etc., questions like that, each because a box and whisker plot is being chunked into 4 quarters. All right, so now let's talk about how we do the 5-number summary. We always want to first start by listing our numbers in order from least to greatest, as we've done for the median on the front. We then find the median. We then look at the lower half of the data, meaning we ignore the median and look at the lower half, find the median of that, that's Q1. Then we look at the upper half of the data. So we find the median, look at the stuff to the right, the upper half, ignore the median again, and find the median of the upper half of data. That's our Q3. And then the minimum and the maximum are simply the lowest and highest value. Letter A. The data for daily average temperatures for 15 days in May are shown in the table. Find the 5-number summary of the data and draw a box and whisker plot. So, step 1. Put the data in order from least to greatest. Identify the min, the max, and the median. Then find Q1 and Q3, and then move on to plotting it on the box and whisker plot. I'm going to pause the video here and do all the math. You should do it at the same time on your own as it is review. All right, so I have the data in order from least to greatest, and I'm going to, before I rush and move on, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to do my due diligence and make sure that I didn't skip any numbers. So I'm simply going to count. I have 3 rows and 5 columns, so I should have 15 pieces of data. And I'm going to check, because why do I want to make a mistake for something so small? I have 15 numbers. I'm going to check them one more time. I have 3 76s. 4 75s, 174, 73, 72, 72, 2 of those, 71. Yep, I'm pretty sure that I have this right. Okay, so now I need the 5-number summary. So I'm going to pause the video again, as you should, and do that. All right, so the minimum is the smallest, I got 68. The max is the largest, I got 76. The median is the number in the middle. So again, I had 15 pieces of data. That's an odd number, so I should have one exact median. It should be 74. I then ignore the median. I can't stress that enough. Maybe you put an asterisk here and highlight this. You ignore the median. So I am ignoring this 74. I then look at the data, cross off one low. I use a different color. You can always do that in your notes. I also crossed in the opposite direction so I could go back and check my work. I got 71 as Q1. I then ignore the median again and find Q3, and I got 75. So now, I need to include those 5 numbers on this number line for the box and whisker plot. Keep in mind with the box and whisker plot, you need a title. That should usually goes below the number line. The numbers must go below the number line. There should be a tick or tally mark just like here. Numbers below, tick or tally mark right above. You can count by whatever you want, by ones, by 1/4, by 57s, as long as you always count by equal intervals. One more time, I would write that down in your notes. You must always count any kind of numbers in the same pattern, always by ones, by 3s, by 57s, by -1/4, whatever you want. You can also start at any number and end at any number, as long as all of your data is included. So your graph may not look just like mine, and that's okay, as long as you follow the rules. The smallest number must always be on the left, and the largest number must always be on the right. Again, this is all review from last year. You can definitely pull out your binder from last year and look over those notes as well. And if not, go ahead and write all of those rules for box plots on this note somewhere. Or on another sheet of paper too. So my lowest number is 68, so I'm definitely not going to start at 0. I think 65 sounds reasonable for me. You can start at 68 if you'd like. I'm going to start at 65. My highest value is 76. I like to go a little bit more, so I'm going to go to 80, which sounds like maybe counting by 5s is pretty good. I don't know. It sounds like my data might be a little grouped together then. I might have to make a little bit of estimations that I'm not happy with. So maybe I take a few minutes and decide what I'm going to count by. I'm going to pause the video. You decide what you're going to count by and make sure again that they are equal intervals. Okay, I decided to count by 2s, and I went from 66 to 78. I'm pretty comfortable with that. I will include all of my data. Pretty comfortable. So again, we need vertical lines at Q1, Q3 at the median, and dots at the min and the max. And if there was an outlier, which again we have not rediscussed this year, But an outlier is a piece of data that falls very far from the rest of the set. It literally outlies the rest. In the mathematical way, again, you can look in your notes from last year, the mathematical way to find an outlier is you find the IQR, which is the interquartile range. So the range from Q3 to Q1 is the IQR. You multiply that number by 1.5. You take the result and subtract it from Q1, and you take the result and add it to Q3. Any data that are outside of those values are outliers. Again, review from last year that you are responsible to know. All right, so now I'm going to graph it. The minimum is 68, so above 68, I'm going to put a dot. The maximum is 76, above 76, I'm going to put a dot. You should be using a ruler. No exceptions here. You should have straight lines. The median is 74. Q3 is 75, so about halfway. Q1 is 71, again about halfway. So again, you should be using a ruler. And yours should look similar to that. So whether you use different numbers of counting or different spacing, you should use most of the number line for your data, as is true always whenever you're given a graph of any kind. Spread out your data so that you can see all of the data. And then we're done. So again, we could talk about quartiles. 25% of the data is here, 25 is here, 25 is here, another 25 is there. I'd like you to do B on your own, and then we're done. Good luck.